Hey guys, welcome to the fifth video in the React series. If you've been following along, that's amazing. If you've just stumbled upon this video by mistake, it's basically a series of my code sessions recorded, and I'm trying to learn React and making this decent to-do app. And as I go along building and learning, I explain all the stuff that I'm doing. So I think it makes up for a pretty solid tutorial too, like kind of tutorial, but kind of not because yeah, it isn't giving you that stuff directly, but you can learn from my mistakes and my explanations basically. So for this video, I want to do two things. Basically, one, add the few missing UI elements that I skipped in the previous video, which is basically buttons to delete a to-do, edit a to-do, and mark a to-do as done. And if you want to see how we build this whole UI in Material UI, check the previous video, which is the fourth video. I'll just link it up in the cards. And I think it's a pretty solid intro for Material UI because we cover a lot of stuff using, container, grid, fab, this floating action button, dialog, form inputs, and this paper element. So yeah, I think it should be a pretty solid intro for you guys if you're looking into Material UI. And so the next thing that we want to do is in this video, after adding those UI elements, make this form functional. And what I've thought is we'll do that using Formik for this video because in the first video we did make the form functional using plain React. So if you want to see how to do that, check the first video. But now we'll go one step further and see how to use Formik. So it should be pretty interesting, and I'll have all the timestamps in the description to feel free to jump around basically. So let's get started with adding the few buttons that we need. First of all, let's see Material UI. We need a button group. Components, button group. And what I'm thinking is I'll add a button group of icon buttons basically. Okay, so we'll use something like this. And let's see. Show full source. We are going to include import button group, and then we can just use this. Cool, seems nice. So we are already importing a lot of stuff. Button group, let me see. Yeah, so okay, wait. Sorry, this is the wrong file. This is our form dialog file. We want to add this button group basically in the to-do list component. Yeah, over here we need to import button group. Yeah, so that's done. Right over, let's try pasting button group directly because I don't know what kind of result we'll have. Failed to compile. Unexpected token. Oh, I think we didn't copy this properly from the docs. Yep. Now this should reload. Button is not defined. Cool, we'll add just button. Reload. Yeah. So now you see we have this button group over here, but we don't want it to be like this. Instead, we'll have just icon buttons. Icon button. Yeah. So instead of button, I'll import icon button, and let's see if it works in button group because I've never used it like that. So first we'll get rid of all these buttons and add an icon button. Let's just add over here for now, then we'll add in the icon. Yeah, this seems messed up because it's supposed to have an icon, not this. So icons, material icon. Okay, so let's see. We need an delete icon. So first off, we'll import this icon. Let's see. That is not it. Let's see if we get the proper icon. Yep. We can just make this to be a self-closing tag rather. Yeah. And like this, we'll add 3 icons. Okay. So these are all delete right now, but we don't want every one of them to be delete. Next on we have edit. So we'll import edit icon. Yep. And then we have, I want to tick check. So I guess these both are same basically. Let me know in the comments if you guys see any difference between check and done. So we'll just replace delete icon with done icon. Yep. And this seems about right. Can we give it a child of small basically? Let's see. And rather than outline, icon button. Size small. Let's see if this makes a difference. No, I guess in the button group it's automatically changed to size small. And I guess in the button group this ripple effect doesn't look that nice. So I'll just disable ripple. Here's this option. We can disable ripple by passing it as a prop. So that means disable ripple and we'll say false. So now, oh, it still has a ripple, even though I said disable ripple is equal to false. Never mind, it's not that important. Yeah, so let's just format this a little better. This doesn't look fine. So we have 3 variants: contained, outlined, or text. So by default it's outlined. We chose the outlined ones, but let's try giving it a variant text. Now it has this lines in between, and we ought to give it a size. By default it's medium. We give it a size of small. Yeah, that looks more like it. And now what I want to do is just push this to the other side. let's do a little debugging in the browser to figure out what is a flex container, what is not, because I've like forgot a bit of the layout since the last time. So first of all, this whole paper, yeah, so this is just a grid item. Then this is a flex container, which is basically to do and high in a row. Then this is not a flex container, and then comes this. This is a flex container for the buttons. What we can do is we can go old school and basically change how send it to the other side by using the right property, float right. I don't know if people still use float right, but it seems fitting for this case, and that messed stuff up for some reason. So that's not right. What can we do? This is a grid item, then this is a grid container that is wrapping around these two. So what we can do is make another grid container. Can we? Yeah, let's just try making another grid container. Cool. Now this will, like, this due date and icon buttons will be wrapped in a grid, and then never mind, let's just leave it like this for now. We can fix this later on. We have more important stuff at our hand right now, that is to basically make the functionality. We can do this stuff later on. Let's just add a little bit padding on the top. Padding top is equal to 12 pixels. That should be fine. And maybe it has some padding on the left by default. I want to set that to 0. Yeah. No, it still looks a bit pushed in. Yeah. So this is the button group as we see it. I guess the icons are center aligned. That's why it's a little bit on the side. But that's okay. We don't need a professional UI for now. We'll do with it. So basically this is done. Now the next step is to make this form functional with Formik. This one. Basically now we got to do everything that we need to do. So first of all, just a little another thing, a UX specification basically. As you can see right now in our dialog, cancel is on the right and add is on the left. Add is a primary action. I researched a bit of UX, and what it says is that your primary action should be on the right in these dialogues or forms, whatever. So let's just change that. Yeah. And now as we see, this is on the right, this is on the left, more like how it should be. Now to getting these forms work, let's see, first we need to install Formik, right? So it's just yarn add Formik. So we'll close this for a while and say yarn add Formik. And while that's happening, we can look into Formik a bit, what it helps us with. Basically, when I did the form thing in the first video and in the third video, it was hell. Like, I only had one form input back then. So what I did was basically make it a controlled input, and on every keystroke uh, update the value of that thing basically. But that is obviously annoying if we have multiple inputs, and right now we have three. So Formik basically helps you getting values in and out of form state, validation and error messages, and handling form submissions. So it does that by co-locating all of the above in one place. So that's pretty nice. I've been pretty impressed by this library. Actually, I heard of it uh, a lot before when I was into React. Like, it was making waves in the React world. So that's why I wanted to try it out and see for myself what's all the hype about. So I guess now that's installed, we'll clear that up and start our thing. So basically we'll use Formik. So from what my research has yielded, basically use Formik is one of the most basic methods of including Formik into your app, but it's not the most ideal one per se. It's not the most it's not the most ideal implementation of Formik. It's basically, it will help you if you're just getting started and want to understand how Formik works. This is a good uh, approach that ways. Otherwise, there are custom components that Formik provides you, and you should ideally be using them instead. So, uh, till now I've never used Formik before. All I've done is I've read through this tutorial. So let's keep this as reference and start integrating Formik into our app. So first of all, now that we have Formik installed, we can import use Formik from Formik. Now that we have that, use Formik is basically just a hook that it provides. Let's see what's next. So we can pass it some initial values. Let's just try copying this exactly and see what it yields us. Yeah. So we want the initial values to be, and how it works is it has these initial values, and inside the component that it will basically find the components that have the same name as this. So we haven't given a name to any of the inputs. So here's a text field. First text field, basically to do text. We'll give it a name, and the name will say to do text. And let's say this is to do text test. So now if this worked fine, my understanding is that the dialog should have that text pre-populated. So if okay, React hook use Formik is called in function form dialog component, which is neither a React function component or a custom React hook function. So let's see how do we deal with this problem. Sorry guys, I had to pause for a second. Yeah, so let's see how would this work. My first instinct is to just Google this as it is. With material UI text input. Yep. Let's see. Use Formik with material UI. Dev.to is pretty great, man. I love this website. So they have his name over here. I'm not sure what the issue is. Let's see. Okay, so first of all, let's try taking off on submit, because we don't have it wrapped around a form element. We don't want it to submit on its own. Let's see. Okay, still we get this error. Okay, let's try wrapping this around in a form. Cool. Let's take away the form. I'm not sure what the error is. So we just added a name property, name attribute to this, which is same as initial values. Cool. Now what can we do about it? Okay, let's try one thing. We'll just maybe form component.js import react from react use Formik const form component. Okay, and we'll export default form component. So we'll take away all of this, basically the dialog content. Command X, command X will take it away, and say return and then over here, first of all, take this off, take this off, this returns this, and it imports form component from form component dot slash. Yeah. So, and just slap in the form component over here. And we're going to need to import a ton of stuff over here. So what am I even typing? Import grid text field form control input label select menu item, yeah, That should be good enough, I guess. From @material UI/score. Okay, yeah, it works again. Now we just got to see how to make Formik work inside this. So let's just say const Formik is equal to use Formik. How's that done? We'll get rid of this. We'll name this as just todo text. I'm not sure what's the error over here. Comma expect. Oh, of course. Yeah, that should solve it. Again, I'm sure we're going to get a Formik error over here. Nope, we don't get a Formik error. Let's try saying text. And it still doesn't pre-fill. What's the error over here? Ideally, what should have done is when I said initial value as text over here, it should have pre-filled this component with the text. Let's try console.log formik.values. Now let's hit F12 console. So it does have .to text, but I don't think that's being linked properly to this. But I did say text field name is equal to to-do text. Let's see. Does input need to be wrapped in form for Formik? I guess we could try that. So from what I know, we can give the grid a tag. Let's see if that's sure. We can give the grid a tag and say that just be a form instead of a div. I don't think so. Not sure where I saw that. So in the props item justify LG wrap access. No, I don't think we can. Material UI can grid be any tag. I don't want to waste my time on that. Why can't I get this straightforward thing working? Okay, first let's try it another way. So right now, as you can see, to text is empty basically, and if we type in, it's still empty, which means it isn't linked properly. Or maybe it is. We also need to have it in. Oh god, we need to give it a Formik dot handle change. That was down. And value as Formik dot values. Okay, sorry guys, that was dumb. It was straightforward. We didn't need to even have form, or we didn't even need to, I guess, wrap this in a separate element. Let's get this done now. Now that we know. So on change Formik dot handle change, and value is equal to Formik dot values dot to do text. Okay, so now as you see, I type T over here and to do text has T inside it. So uh, let's try giving this value to see if everything's hooked up properly for sure. Yep, so as you can see, it has test by default from before. So let's wire this up for everything that we have. That is the select. We'll just give this a name of priority on change is equal to Formik dot handle change, and value is equal to Formik dot values dot priority. Yeah, that seems right. And all we have to do is make a priority over here, setting it to low by default. So this should cause a reload. See, it has priority low selected by default. Before, if I remove this priority, if I make this just an empty quotes, let's see what it was before. Yeah, so it just said priority like this, but we gave it a default which is low. Yep, so it has low by default. After that, the last form input that we have to wire in is the date. And obviously to do test, I gave it a value of initial value of test just to check, but now we can get rid of this. Then here's the date input. First of all, let's just type this properly. Okay, as you can see, we have given it a default value over here, but it isn't showing like that. Why isn't it displaying the default value? Date picker. Components. We're just using a native picker, and it's given a default value like this. it now has a default value. So this is basically the format of giving the default value, and I want this to be by default just the current date. So first of all, we'll give it a name of due date, and then we'll say on change, handle change, Formik.handle change. And then value is Formik dot values dot due date. I'm just making sure that I did this correctly over here too. Okay, so now let's just have a due date and make it say basically this. Now this should reload. And as you can see, by default this has low, this has to do text, and this, over here we have this Formik.values thing. So this is working perfectly fine. And if we try changing it, the priority change to medium, the date is changed. So what I want is this shouldn't have like a hard coded value. It should just point to the current date. So I'll make a function, basically just a function, const get current date, const now is date dot now. No, that's how I would do that in Python. Let's just play around with the date object in the console once. Okay, so let d is equal to new date. Okay, I'll just zoom in for a while so that you guys can see this better. So we need it in this format: full year, then full month, then date. So if we say d dot get full year, we can find the current year, that is 2020. Then we can say d dot get date, and that will give us the current date, which is 18 June. Okay, now we need d dot get month, and that gives us 5 because it starts from 0, and June is the 6th month if you start from 1. So if you start from 0, it's basically just the 5th month. We can either, to make this of this format, we can either do some string processing or look into other functions that it has. Get date, get day, full year, hours, month, seconds, UTC month. Let's try that. It still says 5. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to do some kind of processing, or let's try toString. Okay, not that, because this format that we want definitely has to be some kind of standardized format. To locale date string 6/18/2020. No, format for HTML date input. ISO 8601. Alright. Yeah, I was sure that it had to be some kind of default matlab, for sure. So let's see if we have ISO over here to ISO string 2020-06-18. That seems right, but we only need the date. How to only get current date in ISO format JS. Yeah, so this guy wants the same thing. Oh, we can do that. Nope, not the same thing, I guess. But the thing is, if you see, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so the first 10 characters are always going to be an IS, the only the date. So dot slice 0 to 10. Yeah, so that should be the thing that we need. D.to ISO string. So now I'll just zoom out to how it was before. Okay, I just zoomed in the console. Apparently that doesn't affect the rest of the browser. So we just need to say now return. Yep. And then this will be get current date. So that's nice. I learned something new. The format that we give the date to the date input is an ISO date. And this is how you can get the ISO date for the current date. So let's see if this worked. Yep, 6/18/2020, 18 June 2020. So that works like a charm. Now, that's amazing. It was a simple problem. Now, let me just explain a bit how Formik is working over here. We're giving it an initial value property, which basically holds the initial value that we want for all of our inputs. And what it will do is it will take this initial values and seed the dot values object with this initial values. Then these initial values are binded to the text field basically by the name. So I have this name as to do text. That's why just giving formic dot handle change knows which property to update. Of course we're giving the value over here too, but of course you got to do that. It's not going to do everything for you. It's not supposed to do everything for you basically, because let me just show you right over here. Overview, I read a line by them. Basically my goal with Formik was to create a scalable, performant and helper with a minimal API that does really annoying stuff and leaves the rest up to you. So I didn't want to do too much for you, but just abstract away the irritating parts. Again, if you want to see how you can handle a form input in plain React, check out my first video. So now that our form is set up, we just need to make sure that when we hit submit, yeah, just give me a second. It's going to be a whole tree of logic, because the add button is in the form dialog component, then the data for this is in the form component, and the to do data is in the app component. So you see how those values and that data is for like flowing in a tree inside React components. Let's just open up our app.js, and now what we'll do is I'll remove this seed of to do's and let it be an empty string, empty array. Yeah, cool. So now let's find our previous function, that was handle submit. Yeah, so this was the function that we were using to add or to do previously. So we have this function handle submit. So right now we don't need to have an e.prevent default. We can get rid of all this stuff. Okay, so now let's see how this will work. As you see, all these to-dos vanished because initially I was giving this some example to-dos to just test out stuff, but now that's gone. So it's going to have some properties. Yeah, so basically what it'll do is it will get this val and stuff from the Formik values, and we need to pass that stuff in. Okay, so how do you pass data up? Don't judge me if this is a basic React problem and I can't figure it out because I'm pretty new to React. My main thing is Vue.js. So let's just say handle submit and add it to handle submit. Let's just start by passing it in and let's see where we get. Maybe I have an idea. We can take this form component.js and abstract out Formik from here and take it up in the app.js and pass it in as a prop. Wow, that's genius. So you'll see what I'm doing in a second. Then to the form component, we'll pass in Formik, equal to Formik props dot Formik, and in the app.js we're going to have this const use Formik, and we're going to pass that in as a prop. And right now we'll just comment this away. Get current date is not defined and use form. So first of all, I'll import this stuff. Import use Formik form. And then from the form component, I'll just need this function. Yeah, that seems about right. Let's hope this still works the way it's supposed to. So when I should click plus, I still see those values. Okay, that's neat. And again, like every other feature that I'm implementing these days, like in React, I still feel that this is not the ideal approach, but what else can I do right now? I'm here to learn. Okay, so we have Formik, we have passed that in, and over here we'll say on click props dot handle submit. By the way, there's a whole lot more that you can do with Formik, like validate stuff. I'm not getting into that for now. So, and in the app.js, just to make sure all our flow works, in handle submit, we'll console.log formik.values. Okay, we clicked add and this got passed in. So this is working fine. So now all we need to do is we'll destructure this stuff, like to do text, then priority, and then due date is equal to formik dot values. Okay, and now that we have this, we'll do set to dos and spread the previous to dos and create a new one. And for every to do, we first give it an ID. This is basically its unique ID, and we make that as a UUID. UUID is a JS library basically, which you can use to generate a random unique IDs. If you want to know more about it, check the second video of the series. And then we'll set val to do text, priority to priority, and then due date to due date. Yeah, and this should basically add a new to do. And I just want to double check in the to-do list component what key names did I use. So we have to-do.val, we have to-do.priority, we have to-do.due date, and we'll just give this a key because every item, like when you're looping over in React, you need to give it a key. So I'd say to-do.id, and it has to be a unique ID. Key has to be unique. So if I hit plus, this is a moment of truth. This should now work how it's supposed to. We add test to do low priority high and due date as 19 June and set add. Oh, basically our thing got done. Now just a little flaw that I see on handle submit. First of all, this doesn't get reset to the previous values, the default values, and it doesn't get closed by default, so it's still open. We need to handle that stuff. Okay, so first of all, we'll set, after we have added the to do, we'll set is dialog open to false. Okay, and then Formik dot values dot to do text. We will do this, then okay, does it still have initial values? Can we try doing that? Let's try if this works. Initial values. And I also saw a typo in there. Instead of height, it was height. So test priority med due date 20th June add. Yeah, it works fine. And the values are, no, the values aren't resetting. What could be the issue? How to reset values to default in Formik. It seems like reset form could be a Formik function, but we're not using this it this way. How about just resetting it by hand? Let's test that. Test. Let's leave it like that. Yep, this got cleared up. So test 2, but the priority would still say med. So we'll need to just do that manually. And again, like everything in your learning phase, you'll see that there are better ways to get stuff done. But first of all, you have to focus on getting it working and then on refactoring. Get parent date. So now this will automatically, like we did manually reset the form, but I'm sure Formik has methods which helps manually reset. To do to hi 26th. See, here's a typo. We added a T by mistake. And now if we see add to do, the form is reset to how it's supposed to be. First of all, I don't like that typo, so let's fix that. Where is it? Oh, I guess it's not here, it's in the form component in the select. Yeah, this little typo. Now that that's fixed, it should say hi, but it's gone, of course, because it's reset. Alright, so we have that much working. Now we want to see how we can delete the to do. So now that we have added it, let's focus on making this work. So const handle delete. It will get an ID and we'll say const new to-dos equal to spread of the previous to-dos, and then new to-dos dot filter t dot id is not equal to id, and we can spread this and say set to-dos. So if this seems confusing to you guys, it will just clear up in a second. Basically what we are saying, we'll give the delete function the ID of the to-do, and first, because you can't mutate state directly in React, that's not how you're supposed to do stuff, we pass it in a new array, basically a copy of the previous to-dos, and then we create a new array by filtering out the to-do that we just deleted, and then we're spreading it across in an array, and that is basically our new thing, and we'll set that as to-dos. I'm forgetting what, I guess we won't need this spread operators. Cool. So we just need to pass in handle delete. That will go to this todolist component. Handle delete equal to handle delete. Just make sure that's what I've called it, handle delete. Then right over here on icon button, we'll say on click is equal to, we run an arrow function that just says handle delete props dot handle delete, and we pass it to do dot id. I hope this works now. Test medium same day, and delete it. Oh, what just happened? We deleted all the data and kept the normal to do. How about we try spreading this across? I'm curious to see what this filter sent back, because how can I forget that stuff? But that's okay. That's what computer science and programming is about. You forget stuff, you Google stuff. But now we're gonna just test stuff. Add dot filter a is not equal to 1. Okay, so it sends us back a new array. Then why did that happen? That was not supposed to happen. Add delete, yeah, that goes away. So we just should have used the spread operator. Or what we can do is, rather than using this at all, we can just say new todos.filter, because it anyway gives us back a list of to-dos. To do delete. Cool, this works fine. Now in the next video, what we're going to do is basically get this edit functionality working, because that again is going to be a challenge. Yeah, we'll get this edit functionality working, we'll get this done functionality working, and this filter basically what I want to do is, if we have a tons of to-dos over here and we click this chip, it will add a filter that only the to-dos with the priority this specific priority should be displayed. So yeah, that's about it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one, because as you know me guys, it's gonna come out soon for sure. Alright guys, see ya. Done for this one.